Alright, well, she made 5,000 parts, so I reckon that that earns her some time to get back up to 100%. So the upper turret main shaft that drives the live tooling bent because at some point the previous owner was working on it and this whole turret section slid down and slammed into the door, and that slam bent the main shaft here. So as you can see, I have gone ahead and removed the whole turret assembly, and I got the shaft out finally, and so we're gonna see what we can do about fixing that. It looks like it's about 18mm drill rod, and I'm gonna get a chunk of 12mm and fix the one section that's bent. We're gonna cut off the bent section, remake it, and then either we're going to drill and tap it into the existing shaft and then have a welder weld it, and then we'll turn the weld, which is probably what we'll do, but then we have to leave enough space for the weld to stay intact. A lot of people forget about that, so you got to factor that into things. I did take the bearing out. You can run it like this, but I don't know of a cover you have to put on there, so I would probably make something out of Delrin and just throw it on there. But anyway, we got the full turret assembly out, and I'm sorry I'm talking fast because the camera's about to die. Support bushings out. This is the upper turret, one piece. It was a fiasco to remove, I'll give it that. Some nice Nachi Japan bearings here. Might have to just clean those. Oh. Alright, I'm not sure where it cut off, but we got the turret out. Have some very nice looking Nachi Japanese bearings here. We'll probably just clean those really well. Might buy new ones and then throw them in there. But this whole assembly looks fine. It's definitely, you know, been in a machine for 40 years, so that part's pretty gross. Might need to address that here. My worry is that the timing between the gearing and this will be off now. I did my best to mark everything correctly as the best of my knowledge. It is keyed, so we have that. And then I marked on here where I took it out. So for those who don't know, this is also a nut, and then that whole ooh, that's nasty. The whole high-speed shaft comes out. So I was stuck. I had it stuck in the machine. Granted, I just don't know. I took out there was the drive gear, there was that like castle nut, that came off, and then this guy had to undo the 3mm screws that was back here. Once I undid that, then the whole assembly just slid right out. So, and this was not on there very tight, it was just snug, so don't forget that. Other than that, it wasn't awful. Oh, there is a needle bearing on this side, that guy, and this cage came out with the shaft because it was bent. So that needle bearing still looks fine. However, I might have to replace that one. This is the end that took the brunt of the downforce, and so that needle bearing might have some flat spots in it from that. Everything else, I mean, this is plenty girthy to withstand the brute force of it falling. So now we can chalk up removing the whole turret, I guess. Yeah, anyway, I hope everyone's been doing all right. I have been doing okay. Uh, Finally got the order done. However, they have yet to pay me for the order, so I'm holding it kind of hostage until I get paid. That is my biggest fear in taking the leap of being self-employed, is that me being a little guy, the big, conglomerate corporations don't really want to pay you, and then you're kind of, hosed. So we might have to look into some lawyer spiel or something for future occurrences. I know they'll pay it. It's just annoying, you know. It's just annoying. But when they do pay, that means both of these machines are fully broken even. So we had about a year return on investment. And with that money, we're going to, we're already fixing this one. This one's going to be back up to 100%, which means the upper turret will be able to mill. The lower turret has been doing just fine, but that's been kind of a crippling thing. And we're going to finally figure out G68 and G69 on these. And then our attention is going to be for this machine, which has been mothballed for quite a while, and we're going to dive into that thing. But first of all, I'd like to have one fully 100% functioning. It has proven it can run. It ran pretty darn great for being that old. It did have some quirks, which, we're still dating. We're in the dating phase. We're getting to know each other. But I would say I would feel confident in running something else on it. My biggest downfall right now is I don't know programming between the two turrets. That's a little tricky. And again, I couldn't really use the upper one milling wise, which is what I really wanted to do, because this was turning at a pretty slow speed. I did make it work, of course, but long term, it's all about how fast you can manufacture the part and how fast you can deliver it. So, lessons learned. We're going to keep working. It wasn't terrible. I know I'm rambling, I'm sorry. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Sorry to kind of leave you in the dust for a bit. I've been just trying to get this stupid order done. And now that it's done and I can kind of relax, I just wanted to dive into this thing and get it back up to 100%, at least to my knowledge. I'm sure other occurrences will happen later, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here. Alright, welcome back to machine fixing. So we cleaned up the upper turret, nice and shiny, not caked in 40-year-old goo. I started machining the shaft at work in my free time, of course. So I'm hoping to finish up this week. I went through the bearing here, gave her a nice bath in the old parts cleaner, and then learned that there's actually a lubrication hole for the roller bearings on this, which I did not touch once. There is a threaded hole here, but there's no entry into the bearing through that. It just sits there. So that hole right there is where I squirted some of the spindle oil into, and I pretty much just rinsed the thing with like carburetor cleaner, and there was a lot of just black stuff that came out of that bearing. I could not for the life of me get that thing apart, because I really wanted to blow it apart and thoroughly clean it. However, squirted carburetor cleaner in there, slowly rotated the bearing with my finger, and then gratuitously applied spindle lube. So now it feels a hell of a lot better than it was. And now I know that you probably should lube that. I got the bearings for the main shaft for the milling. Oh my god, these things are not cheap. These came from the UK, and I think the total was like $100. And then when the UPS guy came, I owed them another $65. I had to write a check. So these are the bearings I found that fit the dimensions of the old one. And they are SKF. And so this lovely needle bearing sits up here. And then the drive shaft for the milling rides on it. The one I took out was not in great shape because it took the brunt of the impact. And so, let's see. So usually it sits up here. And when this thing slammed down, it slammed into the back of the like parts catcher rest there. And get you a better visual here. This is the other machine, and so this lower pulley shaft is the one that bent pretty bad, and then the belt snapped. But then you see the cover around it. When it slammed into it, it left a gaping hole in that cover that I need to try to patch up as best I can. And then, as I said in the previous video, once the white one's all up and going, then we'll dive into the little blue one here. And overall shape is pretty good, but she hasn't ran in a long time. Long time. So it's pretty much another mystery to uncover. I do like the sweet lamp that it came with. The other one doesn't have it, so might have to look into that. But anyway, so far everything's going okay with fixing. I'll show you the cover here that we're going to try to fix. So this cover took the impact and it cracked it all the way through there, as you can see. So I don't know if if JB Weld can save the majority of that. I think I do have some bits and bobs of it I found that I will kind of stitch back together again. And then what we'll end up doing is throwing it in the parts cleaner, cleaning it really well. And then I'm probably going to have to take a angle grinder and grind on this crack. And I want to open up a gap so I can get JB Weld in there. I don't think I'll be able to even weld this stuff. It looks like just some cast aluminum. So JB Weld will be my saving grace here. Worst case, you get some like chicken wire or something, and we can drive in some screws and some chicken wire and just kind of, you know, fill in the gap so the JB Weld has something to grip onto anyway. So that is our next endeavor in fixing the white machine here. And I guess I'll update you when I have progress. Alright, well, it looks like we got lucky. I remember I saved all the pieces, and it looks like pretty much 80% will be filled in, and then the rest we'll have to supplement with JB Weld. Parts of it do fit together, and then others not so much, because this is crushed in like this. So I'm going to attempt to lightly beat it the other way, and then all these puzzle pieces should fit relatively easy, and if not, then I'll grind them down to make them fit, and then we'll basically just come in with JB Weld and then pretty much JB Weld each piece in as we go. Now I could weld them all up in one piece, but I know that won't fit this in its current state because you can see it's crushed in a little bit. So we're going to do our best to make that go the other way, and then worst case we're just going to hand grind those pieces to fill in this and just leave it as is, and then come back and fill it in here. So let me figure that out and we'll bring you back. Alright, so we're starting to put the puzzle back together again. Now I'm only going to do it a few pieces at a time, or I'm going to do it this half and then another half. If I was trying to do the whole thing at once, I don't think it would hold very well. So we're just going to slowly do this, let it harden, come back, do it again. It's a lot of finessing back and forth between the sander and the pieces, because I was unable to smush it. So I got two pieces JB welded in there. Took a grinder and ground the crack and then filled it in with JB Weld, so I'm not worried about it. And this is cosmetic purposes only, so it's not structural by any means. It just holds a cover, so just want to get that out there for anybody. I still have 4 pieces left to go there, so we're just going to let this harden overnight and come back tomorrow, and then use my handy dandy stick here to butter it up a little bit more, I guess. And then the cover that goes over this is a piece of plexiglass. The other machine has an actual steel cover. I'm not entirely sure what happened to the covers on this machine to begin with. They are handy out of plexiglass because then you can keep an eye on the belt that's in there, or if you have to change speeds or you need to know which speed you're running, I guess. But we're gonna assess the condition of those plexiglass covers as well, and then go from there. I think they'd be fine if I just put them back on. I know there's a chunk missing out of it, so we might have to fashion something out of something there, but it's mainly just to keep any oil or debris out of the belt. So anyway, let's let this harden and we'll come back to it tomorrow. Alright, well, it is many days later, and as you can tell by the fine dusting of JB Weld everywhere, we have it pretty much all welded up. I had to come back and fill it on the top here because it kind of arced up and then down. And then when I came back and ground it, I took a wee bit too much, so there was a little bit of a dip right here. So we filled that up. I will file this and sand it and make it look good. And I bought some appliance paint, and we'll just give her a little tss, and no one will be the wiser. So I'm happy with that. That followed me home. There's probably a blurb about it before this. I got a lovely spot picked out for it. The electrician I have yet to deal with because I am probably getting a Bridgeport by the end of December. So that will be a thing. And I guess you're not a machine shop until you have a Bridgeport. So I will probably have him hook up the centrifuge and the Bridgeport at the same time to help with that. So that's a whole debacle. Anyway, the shaft for the upper is done, and it was quite the endeavor. here is our lovely braze job by one of my coworkers. And big shout out to welders and fabricators out there, because the way I was going to do this was not a great way, and he suggested that I actually thread and press fit this into the bar, because I bought this pre-ground, so I didn't have to turn the OD of this concentric with this. So this had to be like dead nuts in order for there to be zilch for run out. And it was actually pretty darn clever. So always consult people as experts in their field. And it pays to make friends at work, that's for sure. He did not want compensation, he just wanted the thrill of welding something different, was pretty much his words. So that is brazed very nicely. There's plenty of penetration into that. We pretty much overdid it because we didn't want to underdo it. So cut our 5mm keyway. I had to thread dye these threads, and boy howdy, that thread was not, or the thread dye was not happy trying to cut this stuff. So in the end, this has 2/10 of run out. And for those of you who don't know, that is, what is that? 3 zeros and a 2. 0.0002 of run out between the two. And I'm pretty sure our bearing will not care about that. So now we have to start remembering how to put this together. And I guess we'll go through that here in a little bit. So that is the biggest leap. It is ready to go back together and be a 100% fully functioning machine. Although, roadblock, I need to find the right belt in order for this thing to work. So I might take that belt off and try to find a comparison. I do have the old belt still, actually. And it's this very, very weird... it is rubbery, but it's... I don't know how to describe it. It's interesting. And I think the maintenance guy... I'll have to remember the website, or I'll ask him tomorrow what website he buys stuff from. But it is like some weird... It's weird. It is a V-belt, so I guess we'll find out. But that is what is going on around this place. Man, it's getting pretty packed in here. The mill will go right here. At least that's what my brain thinks. So I'll have to rip out the remainder of this wall, which is non-structural because I got this ginormous beam going across the whole thing. Figure out where the heck to put all this crap, and then there'll be a frickin' mill right there. Oh boy, what are we doing? Anyway, that is the current state of things. I will bring you back once, well, I have it more together anyway. Until then. Alright, well, it is more together, and I have one coat of the white paint on it. You can see a little bit of holes there, but, you know, it's a heck of a lot better than it was. It's just appliance epoxy, for those wondering here. Painting it nice and pretty white makes the whole rest of the machine not look so white, but that's okay. It's kind of hidden back there, so I might have to come back and, well, we'll see how nitpicky I get. So we have been figuring out putting this whole upper turret assembly back together again. I guess it's a little better with the light. So we got the needle bearing in there. There's our shaft poking out. We got the remainder of everything on there. The turret's in. The front gear's in. It spins pretty nice. Still looks pretty straight, so no complaints there. Been just pretty much dousing everything in spindle oil because this gets all filled up here, and I'm curious as to how it actually pushes out and then spins. I know this gear cups in, contacts this gear, and then this whole thing spins, but as I recall, this nut back here was just had a little bit of play in it. I don't know, but it is to the point where I could turn this on and rotate it and see if the spindle actually moves. Everything else is for the shaft to spin. So that cover, the pulley, some more bolts and all that. I'll have to put in these bolts. And then it should be ready to rotate. I guess. Everything's keyed in, so you have a pin here which lines this. And then this whole shaft has two keys, 180 from each other, that connects to the gear back here. So everything is in time in terms of the rotations. So I guess we will see if everything just blows apart or if it works great. And I'm really hoping it works great. So let me finish putting these bolts in, and then I guess we'll turn it on and see if it does things. Alright, so we got it booted up. I left the oil on so it squirted oil everywhere. So we're going to call up tool 21. Haha! Look at that! That was actually pretty darn easy when I come to think of it, pulling that whole thing. And you can't, well, I guess you could remove that whole shaft if you take this cover off. Then you can just pull the whole shaft out, but I found it easier to just yank the whole turret. So that's cool. That means we're on the home stretch here. So I need to put the number plate back on here, and then once that paint dries, which will probably be tomorrow, we can put the cover back on, put the pulley on, rob the belt from the machine behind me, and then fire it up and watch that shaft spin. So that is that's a huge win right there, taking apart things and putting them back together on an old machine and having them work. So I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, well, it's not tomorrow, it's like a few hours later. I got impatient. The paint dried, so that's pretty much what sparked this whole ordeal. And so now we shall turn on our live tools. And she's working. Very nice, yes, very nice. that was the speed I was cutting my stuff with, and now I got high speed. And then I even have faster speed on that larger back pulley there. So that means she's like damn near 100% now. I just got to put the carrier bearing in there, and she's ready to make parts for people, whoever they might be. Oh, that's quite the journey here. Well, with that being 100%, our next victim is right behind us here, the blue one, so we'll do a separate video on that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching this stitched together compilation, and we'll see you guys next time.